Start building some hurting bombs.
Pressing me? Because your authority is not recognized in Fort Kickass.
Oh, look, Doc, I just can't do it. I'll never learn to speak Greek.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I don't need no philosophy lesson here.
And I think that the spotlight should go on top of me. Yeah.
Master of misinformation, Mr. Know-It-All.
Is he always so cheerful?
See, you told everyone your deepest, darkest secret.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe.
Just looking, thanks. I'll stand at the bar. I shouldn't wish to attract attention.
Don't get mentally erect.
Well, neither are you very much, sure.
This is the way.
I think it's good, except it sucks.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
That's an attention getter.
The tower of power, too sweet to be sour. I'm funky like a monkey. Sky's the limit and space is the place.
Are you ready?
I changed it just a little bit. You didn't notice last week.
I was not paying attention.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's show. I am Lewis. This is Jamie. You guys know who we are, and we got a very special guest in the back, a comic book icon, a comic book legend, and he's got a hot commodity out here today. We already got the good evenings coming in, but you know what? The good evenings. That's what I said. The good evenings. Jamie, look, I got a dancing Stitch. He actually dances.
I decorated my water bottle.
Oh, why did you do that? Where'd you get all the stickers from?
Don't you worry about my sticker addiction.
And J-Bo wants to know, who are you guys again? Anyway, without further ado, oh my God, the things are coming in. Let's bring in the one, the only, Ron Garney. And he hung out with me 2 weeks ago.
Are we ready?
So yes, we're ready. He hung out with me 2 weeks ago. That's probably why he's drinking right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still getting over it.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. Anyway, we do have we have Aviva saying good evening. And Jamie, what does Uncle Joe say?
Joe says, hey, Lewis, Jamie, and Ron out celebrating with my daughter, Carlene Ann, for her birthday. Happy birthday, Carlene.
Beautiful name. I love that name, Carlene Ann. That's lovely.
Happy birthday. So, Ron, I have a few questions, but the one question that stays in my mind since the last time you and I were hanging out, super fans. How, I mean...
Do you mean like the guy who was at the store that time?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he was probably, I would say, ranked in the top 2 or 3 super fans I've ever met, for sure. Okay. He was really enthusiastic.
I have the footage. I got to put the footage up.
Oh, you have. Oh no.
Yes, I have.
Please,
I
don't.
do.
He likes to do that to people.
Wait, before you do, let me get another drink.
He was also, as you were in the back doing the commissions, doing the signings, he actually came over because he's a fan of Jamie and I, and he's like, can I get on the show? Can I talk about meeting Ron? Can I talk about... And I
you should have had him on. That would have been entertaining.
I did. I did at Eric's shop.
Oh, you did?
And I was like, okay, and all he kept doing was going on and on and on, talking about how your DNA is on his comic book right now.
Oh, that's really gross.
So,
that is kind of weird.
Come on now. You're opening up the door for all kinds of...
Oh, I know. But he's like, oh my God, his breath is on the cover.
My breath, yeah.
Yeah.
Is breath technically DNA, though? Breath is not DNA.
Well, to think about the guy that we were talking about, how does one such as you deal with those type of fans?
One such as me?
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer that question. I just deal. I'm pretty good at handling whatever comes my way. I mean, I just, try to go with the energy they're giving out. I'm always very appreciative of anybody who's that enthusiastic about what I do for a living. I mean, there are not too many people who get to, experience such feedback on what they do for a living, So I never take that for granted. I'm always grateful and appreciative of it. And, and I try to give it back, and then just sit back and enjoy myself as they're, like that guy was so, over the top. It was more like watching a show for me.
And we have a comment from Chris.
He says, met Ron at several cons. Always nice, professional. Thank you for what you do. I have autographs, not DNA.
Well, that's good to know. Somebody's going to clone me.
What influenced you to get into comics? I'm sure most of these questions that Jamie and I are probably going to be throwing at you tonight before we get into some shenanigans and fun. You probably already answered.
What kind of shenanigans are we talking here?
Oh, we got the question of the week. We're going to be talking about Morbius a little bit. And
did you see it was trending on Twitter today? Morbius sweep.
No.
Morbius sweep. Oh my God, it was hilarious. Because
I
guess it had an all-time low attendance at the theater, so people were just ragging on it. It was pretty funny, actually. And I'm not a big nerd, but
did you see it?
No, I didn't. I didn't go. Pretty bad, huh?
Yeah, we went Friday night. We'll get to my. Yeah, we'll get.
Did you go, Jamie?
I did not. No, I was doing yard work.
Oh, really? What kind of yard work?
Clearing out a field behind the house.
Sweet. I was doing that today, actually.
It was had to use the push mower because the ride-on mower doesn't get down there, and it was it's like an acre, so it was a lot.
It's nice being out there when the weather starts getting warm, though,
Yeah.
You're relaxing. So what's this thing you're going to lay on me here? You were just saying.
Jamie was talking about
shenanigans.
Jamie was talking about her yard work, and pretty soon one of the dogs is going to pop up.
I love yard work, so to me that's interesting. So I could hear, I could talk about that stuff all day.
I do too.
Wait till she starts talking about the poo or the bees. Last year it was bees that jumped up on you, right?
In the rock wall when I was rebuilding half of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened last year.
Poo?
Yeah.
Are you? You mean the poop patrol last week when the poop flung in my eye? We're not talking about that.
Disgusting. Thanks, Joe. I want to answer these people. Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right. Wait. What did Uncle Joe say?
He said I'm adorable.
Yeah.
Thanks.
They want your DNA, Jamie.
Oh
no. You can swap out my DNA for Jamie's. How about that? You lucky bastards.
What got you into comics?
Sell my DNA online and quit my job and make a lot of money.
There you go.
Yeah, you probably could. Your T-shirts outsell anything else, for crying out loud. What got you into comics, sir? For our audience,
what got me into comics? Well, I read them when I was really young. I didn't read them much, from probably 6 or 7 on. And then I just happened to be bartending at a bar back in the mid 80s. And the other bartender had a comic book, and I picked it up and I was like, oh, I remember these from being a kid. And I had gone to school for illustration and, wasn't sure what I was going to do with that. So I knew I loved movies and I loved composition and storytelling and things like that. And but I was also an artist. So when I picked it up, it sort of hit me right away, like kind of a lightning bolt. Like, oh my God, I could do this for a living. This is cool because it checked all those boxes. It was, it was storytelling. It was like a short form of movie making in a way. It's like watching a little movie, and composition. I'm a big photography, aficionado. Big fan of Ansel Adams. So I always liked the composition within the frames and the panels. And so it just checked all those boxes. And so I went down the street. It was a 24-hour store, and I picked up a bunch of stuff and just kind of started reading them again and kind of got hooked right away. And I didn't know if I would ever be able to make it into Marvel or anything, but I started inquiring about it. I asked the guy behind the counter, how would somebody go about, getting into Marvel? And he pointed over at the shelf, and there was a Marvel tryout book. It was an oversized book where they had full-size Bristol board in there, and John Romita Jr. had done pencils that you could ink over, and then they had blank boards, and you had a script, and you had to draw, and then they had this contest where you had to enter it by a certain date, and if you won, you'd get a gig with Marvel, and if you didn't, well, that's it. So I worked on that, and I sent it in like the day before the deadline. So probably didn't make it there on time anyway. But I got a no thank you letter, and I think Mark Bagley won it. But it lit a fire under my ass, a little bit to, is this a family-friendly show? I can swear.
No, we're good. Public access, you can do whatever you want.
All right. Under my rear end. It made me feel competitive, because I was always able to draw since I was young, and so I felt competitive about getting rejected. And so I kind of went into overdrive working on samples. Then I found out the guy who drew the comic that I had picked up in the bar for the first time happened to live down the road from me. His name was Mike Zeck.
Oh.
Okay. And he drew Secret Wars, and the comic I had was a Secret Wars comic. So I had mentioned it to the guy behind the counter at the store, and he said, "Oh, well, Mike Zeck happens to live in West Haven." I'm like, "What?" So I looked, and he literally was, like 8 minutes down the road from me. I mean, what are the odds of that in this world, Mm-hmm. So I looked him up in the phone book, and I called him, and I left him a message on his answering machine. Said, "Hey, man, I'm a bartender in New Haven. Can you look at I'm thinking about getting into Marvel. Can you look at my work?" And he graciously called me back, because he could have just said, blown it off and not returned the call. That's what I expected. But he was nice enough to call me back and, told me to send him samples. So I did. And he called me back, and we went over the samples, and he told me he thought they were actually pretty good. And but he gave me things to work on over the next year and a half or so, 2 years. And in the meantime, he came into my bar, and we started hanging out and playing volleyball and things like that together. And then when he thought I was ready, he brought me into Marvel one day, called me up, said, "Hey, what are you doing on Wednesday?" I said, "Not much. What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm going into Marvel. I want to bring you in, show your samples around." I was like, "What?" So that was it. I went in with him. And another guy named Larry Alexander, who was showing his work as well. We went to DC, and I immediately got a job offer from DC, which was Animal Man that Grant Morrison was writing.
Yeah.
But so they asked me to do the first 7 pages to see if I could actually finish them in time, and keep up with the schedule. And I killed myself pulling all-nighters, and it was like, it was a real wake-up call to what it was I was going to have to get into, because it was a lot of work. And I was just a bartender, and I drew, for fun and stuff. So to do it, professionally was a whole different story. So I got them done, and then when I brought them in, they told me the guy they originally asked who turned it down changed his mind. So that was that, and I went to Marvel, and I had 3 offers on my answering machine for Marvel. So that was it. It was just like that.
And we get some questions. One of the questions I wanted to ask, but Joe says, Jamie?
Yep, Ron, who was your inspiration that started you on your drawing career?
My inspiration. I had been drawing since I was probably 4 years old. Who are you waving to?
Andre.
Oh, hey, Andre. They're waving at me. Hey. Yeah. I was drawing since I was 4, and I think my grandmother was an artist, and so it was very early on I started drawing. The first thing I ever drew was Bugs Bunny. It was little pictures of Bugs Bunny, and then, interestingly enough, I started drawing Superman and Batman. They look like little balloons with backward S's, on the cape and things like that. So I got kind of hooked on comic book characters very early on, even though I forgot about them later. So those were the first things I did, but anybody in particular would have to be somebody from my family. But then later, obviously, I had other artistic influences. I mean, I wasn't going to be a comic artist. I was into Norman Rockwell and the Wyeths and things like that, so I had a little bit more of a fine art background, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. Frank Frazetta later.
Okay. Who's the most funnest character for you to work on?
The funnest?
Yeah. What?
The most funnest.
The funnest character I've ever
worked on. The most fun to draw.
I gotta say, I've always loved drawing the Hulk. Behind you.
Yeah.
He was fun. I remember when I first got the offer to do that, I was just so pumped because it wasn't, I could just shut down anything deep about it and just draw a big green monster smashing stuff, so that was fun for me. I liked Wolverine. I tend to like grittier characters. That's why I work well on Daredevil and now on Berserker, I think. So,
and that brings us to our next question. That's probably on everyone's mind.
Good segue.
Yes, great.
Jamie, how did I get involved with Berserker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I was working on Juggernaut, and Marvel. It was in the middle of COVID. Marvel had shut down for a bit, so they shut down Juggernaut. So I wasn't actually doing it for a few months, and then they started it up again. And then during that time, I had been seriously thinking about moving on. I'd been with Marvel for over 30 years, and I wanted to try something else, maybe draw and write my own thing for who knows what. I just wasn't sure, but I knew I wanted to move on because I'd done so many characters at Marvel, and I wanted to just try something else. And so I got this email from some, I think it was either Philip or somebody from Boom Studios. And they asked if they could call me, and I said, yeah, sure. I figured they were going to ask me to do a cover or something. And so they called me up, and the guy said, I think it was Philip, he said, want to know what my availability was. And I said, well, just so happens I'll probably be leaving Marvel after the next issue of Juggernaut, and I kind of don't know what I want to do. I don't think I want to just jump right into another project or anything else, or, because I might want to write and draw my own thing. And so he said, well, I said, why? He goes, well, we're working on this book with Keanu Reeves, and he really loves your work. So I was like, okay. That was a little out of left. I didn't expect that,
Okay.
And I kind of didn't, I just didn't know what to expect. I just assumed it was Keanu put his name on something, like branded it, like a lot of people do. They just use it, they brand their name on things. So I wasn't sure how involved he was. And so I just said, well, I didn't hear that from him, like thinking, sort of bluffing it, because I really wasn't interested in getting in another project. Mm-hmm. So they said, well, can we just talk to you about it a little bit and tell you what the project's about and stuff? And, maybe we can do a Zoom call like this. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to you about it. And, but I had every intention of saying no, but I wanted to, give them the respect to talk about it. So that Wednesday comes, 1:00 rolls around. I press the Zoom button. Bing, there's Keanu staring at me.
No way.
He's like, Ron, I'm like, Keanu. Something like that, and so I kind of had a suspicion he might have been on the call, but I really still took me by surprise. And a few of the guys from Boom were there, and then we just talked about it for a bit, probably half an hour or so, 45 minutes. And he just asked me, he said, I really want you on this book, and And evidently they had been working on it for a while before I came on. And I didn't know anything about it. I'm not a big, I don't read a lot of what's going on in the business because I'm so busy doing what I do that at the end of the day, I'm disassociated from, everything at large, what's going on with all the books and things. So I didn't really know. So this was just like an asteroid hit my life out of the blue. It was like, came walking out of my studio after that meeting. I'm like, what the hell? How the hell did this happen? All of a sudden I'm working, thinking about working with Keanu Reeves. But he asked me to get, I told him I'd give it some thought, and obviously after I got off, I'm like, how do I say no to him? So, I said yes. And then I was going to take a couple months off after I got done with Juggernaut. And then I said, you know what? Let me just dig into this right away because they're all excited about it. And I could feel the energy coming off of everyone. And I was just like, I'm more the type who gets in there and just, I'll get my, I'll turn that switch on and just go. I don't shy away from things like that. So I wanted to get in there, get into the meat of it and get it done because I know they've been planning it for a long time and it was a big Kickstarter campaign and everything else. So I waited a couple weeks and then I just said, you know what, I'm in and I'm just going to go, get to town on. I finished it in about 6 or 8 weeks. It was a double-sized issue, the first issue. And it turned out to be, one of the biggest selling comics in the last 30 years. So yeah. Pretty great.
It was, how did you feel when Keanu said, I want you? I mean, that's it's trippy. It took me a bit because we've talked quite a bit on Skype here and there, and it was weird at first. It's different now. It's not like that now, but at first it was just like, it's like this trippy thing where you think you're watching a movie and all of a sudden the movie stops what it's doing and turns and talks to you, So I was like, it took me a bit to get used to talking to him. But that was cool, I mean, I was very honored, obviously flattered, that they thought of me and they thought so much of me and that he liked it. And I don't think he knew who I was per se at first. I think he was looking at artists and things and he happened to hook into my Conan stuff from what I understand and really liked it. And so that's how it happened. Yeah, that was my next question. If he was a fan of Ghost Rider and was like, wow, and was just stuck on you.
Yeah, I think he's a general fan, I think, of comics. I don't know how hooked in he is to a lot of the names and people who've worked on the books. I don't get a sense that he's hooked in that way, like uber fans are, where they know every artist, writer, colorist, and everything about the book. I think he likes the characters, and I think he knows who Frank Miller is. Knew Frank Miller was, and a couple other people. But so yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk about Ghost Rider much. It was more Conan and Daredevil and those things, and more recent stuff, I think.
All right, Jamie. Before we get to more questions, do you have anything for Ron?
Come on, Jamie, lay it on.
I just want to know, so are you a self-taught artist or did you go to school?
Well, I was self-taught first and then I went to school. So both, like I said, I was drawing from the time I was 4, and I actually can remember even hooking in on Sunday mornings to this, Captain Bob's Drawing Hour show. His name was Captain Bob. And he would draw like wildlife, like manatees and dolphins and whatever it was that week. And I would sit there on Sunday mornings and draw, So
that's funny. I watched Captain Noah and you would send your pictures to him and he'd post them on the show, but mine never got posted on the show.
Oh, no. Damn them.
I don't know if my mom ever actually sent them in.
Don't they know who you were going to be?
She probably didn't send the pictures in.
Probably not. You're right.
That's my mom.
You were lied to. How dare she?
I don't. My mom lied to me about everything: the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus.
Oh God, here we go.
Well, what's funny about that is I don't lie. I never lied to my kids about that. I never told them there wasn't, but I never told them there was. I just put it in a context to me that sounded reasonable. That didn't make me a liar. So I would say Santa Claus. Oh yes, he was a real person who cared about, children and people, and he would bring, gifts to needy families and things like that. And, and I try to put it in context, and I said he embodies the spirit of giving, but I would never say he was a guy coming down a chimney and, roasting his chestnuts on an open fire, if you get my drift.
All right.
Sorry, I couldn't resist that.
Jamie, what does Donald have to say?
Donald wants to know what your favorite comic book to work on was.
Boy, look at all those questions. Wow. I feel like I'm going to answer all those. What was my favorite comic book to work on? I would have to say, well, obviously working on Berserker has been amazing, for obvious reasons. Plus there's going to be a movie made. I liked working on Men of Wrath that I did with Jason Aaron. That was my creator-owned I did. That was one Keanu read, actually. And when I talked to him about it, he said, I read Men of Wrath, and he goes, it was really violent. And I thought it was hilarious for him to say that, considering how violent Berserker is. So, Man of Wrath was clearly violent. But I would have to say Daredevil, it's probably my favorite work I've done artistically for Marvel. There's something about that character. I was so pumped, and I really liked the stories that Charles Soule was writing. And that's important for you to do your best work, is that you're really enjoying the story you're working on. I've worked on some stories that, there's nothing against the writers. Just, I wasn't clicking for whatever reasons, and I'm not for instance, I'm not a team book artist. I don't like doing team books because I can't inject that unique thing that I can add to a character on its own to have it, to breathe life into it. So, and rather than having to spread out that artistic, effort amongst 5 or 6 or 7 different characters. So I like to be like, if you look at my Silver Surfer stuff, it's markedly different from my Hulk. It's markedly different from my Cap. It's markedly, because I try to I don't get involved in the artistic ego of trying to flex my own stylistic muscles. I try to really let the character live on its own and come up with something that's unique for it. So I would say, if anything, that's what distinguishes me, in my books. So,
okay,
well, at least I hope so.
All right. Chris wants to know, how is it working with Boom?
It's funnest.
Funnest.
Wow.
It's It's been good. They're all really nice people over there. They're very professional.
But I ain't punchy, it's just the way I talk here.
Just the way I talk here. They're a young, hungry company, and they've got the success and they're building on it. And you can see in talking with them, they're really trying to be uber professional and keep that ship sailing in the right direction. They're very creative. And that's the thing I like about them, is they haven't gone uber corporate, they're still all about the creation of these great projects, and properties. And then they have Boom Studios, the movie studios and everything else. So they're doing it right. It's not antiseptic at all. And everybody's been great to work with, very open, if I need anything, they're right there if I need anything. And right now it's a pretty smoothly running engine. I actually caught up to Keanu and Matt on the book. I actually passed them out. So it's doing well, doing really well. I like working with them. What's the thoughts on traditional art, bullshit, digital art?
I think it's verse.
Verse.
Oh, verse.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on the traditional art, bullshit, digital art? Oh, bullshit. It's bullshit. All bullshit aside, they both have, look, I use both. So I would say that the digital and the Photoshop and everything else was almost tailor-made. It was like, a gift from the gods for us. because of how user friendly it is to be a comic artist. And when you need to step backwards and erase, or, I can't tell you how many years I spent erasing things and having to redraw and being very frustrated because it swallowed up so much time during the day. Whereas now you can just take a little lasso and go dink, and raise it up, shrink it or enlarge it, to fix those things much, much quicker. So it really has taken a lot of stress off. So I can't say enough good things really about the digital, digital, other than, I would say you just don't have the original page in your hand. But I do a combination of both. I'll do my covers. I do traditional or natural, whatever you want to call it. And I'll do the interiors mostly digital because it saves me so much time. I did the entire first issue of Berserker, though. Do I have it here? Where? Take a look. Yeah, all the first pages, the first issue were, on paper. So because I wanted to have that, have the first issue of original art. That said, I still do the covers and things like that, that way. And sometimes I can do a combination of the digital. If I need to, I'll, do the rough layout digitally and then print it off and then go off onto the paper with that. It's no different. It's pretty much the same exact thing. It's just an electronic version of drawing on a rough, so pretty much.
All right. And I think that answers Ali's question. What's your preferred medium?
My preferred medium. That's a bullshit question. No, it's a great question. I would probably say, I love to paint. I haven't painted in a long time. I did do a Thor painting that, I dug my heels into. I don't know where that is. But, and I had so much fun doing, I want to get back into that because originally I was going to be a fantasy illustrator, like Frazetta. Mm-hmm. And I used to do all these fantasy paintings and oils and things like that. And then they got stolen out of my old apartment building. So all through college and my childhood, I had all these paintings that I never saw again. So that was pretty sad. But I like to do paintings. But as far as just the comic book work, I'd have to say there's nothing really like doing a cool pencil drawing and inking over it. But I also like the versatility of the digital. So it doesn't matter. For me, whatever gets me to the end point, the best that it can be is my preferred medium. So
there you go. We're going to take a 30-second break, and when we come back, we're going to come back more with Ron. Question.
I like how Jamie's got the wings coming out of her back there. Oh. Like she's going to fly away,
We're going to take a 30-second break.
For when Lou gets out of control.
Yeah. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Angrygeeks Show. Brought to you by CH Square Collectibles, Comics Collectibles, and more. Magic the Gathering every Friday at 6 p.m. Located at 39 Wedgwood Drive, Suite 232, Jewett City. Comics, sports card, autographs, online sales. CH Square Collectibles, proud sponsor of the Angrygeeks Show.
And we are back, and Batman's in the house, and he says, Hi guys.
Where's
Ron,
Batman? Batman?
What do you? Yeah, matches Malone, Batman himself.
Oh, wow.
What does he say, Jamie?
He says, "Hi guys, Ron. What do you jam to when you're working on a project?"
You mean music? Oh, jeez, it runs the gamut. I'm actually a bit of a musician myself. I had a band that I toured around New Haven. We played all the New Haven County clubs and bars and stuff years ago. I actually did a song with Chris Daughtry even for my Men of Wrath show. Really? So hopefully that'll get used in a show someday. But yeah, I listen to all kinds of different things. From Led Zeppelin to STP to Nirvana to the Beatles. Beatles are probably my, because I grew up. That was my first music I ever heard. Went back in the early days of the 60s. I know that's something you can't comprehend, Jamie, but
I can. My dad's favorite band was the Beatles, so I actually know a lot.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, Elvis, but I also listen to classical music. My aunt was a classical pianist. She played at Carnegie Hall. She went to the Boston Conservatory of Music. So I have a wide, eclectic taste. I play piano myself. So yeah, it just depends on my mood. Sometimes I like to put on, music from Lord of the Rings or whatever. I was listening to that when I was drawing some Berserker stuff. Kind of gets you, try to see it in your head. There were some scenes in the first arc of Berserker, these landscapes with, back 80,000 years ago, and they're on horses, and I put on that, epic music because the book is kind of epic in that way. There's landscapes and warriors and, things like that. So I try to pump myself up for that.
Okay, so what is the oddest song on your playlist?
Oddest?
Yeah, the oddest. What is the one song where you're driving down the street and the person sitting next to you go, really?
Well, my daughter always says I'm always listening to music. Like she doesn't know the name of it, so she'll say, "You're always listening to songs that go Mama Jones, Mama Jones." I'm like, what are you talking about? She means the mamas and the papas.
Okay.
So there might be what's that song that they do that I play sometimes? Creek Alley. So maybe that, but I don't listen to it that often. So that's hard to say oddest. I'd have to go through everything.
Okay. What does Aviva have to say?
Nothing is as eclectic as what Lewis has in his collection.
Yeah.
Unique name, Aviva.
Yes, Aviva. Ron did not see the Geek Lair. He just saw the backdrop. After we're done, I'm going to give him a quick
tour of the Geek Lair.
Yes, I like Jamie's.
I feel like she might be referring to a music collection.
Oh, the music collection. Yeah, no.
Yeah, what did you think she meant? Just that, like the comic book stuff. Is there something back there that you shouldn't be showing people?
No. I love Jamie's. Jamie and my wife explained the Geek Lair in the best way possible. How do you explain the Geek Lair?
It's like you're going to a store, a very well put together toy store.
And Rose says it's like walking into a thrift shop. That's how my wife says it.
Yeah, but it's
so weird
more organized than a thrift shop.
It's so interesting watching you go off screen to point at her, but she keeps talking back to you, looking out this way. So he's
better at that than I am, and it's funny because everything is opposite. So really, if I'm looking at him, I'm not actually looking at him. I'm looking away.
Okay.
But we've gotten used to this. That's why we're always on the same side. So I point the right way.
Yeah, it's weird. Even when we have live appearances and we're on stage doing a panel, we're in the same position. We're always sitting this way. All our promo pictures, everything. When they introduce us to go out on stage, we're sitting in the same position constantly.
If you look at the early ones, we're like, and Lewis. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's confusing after a while.
Yeah.
I should be going like this. Hey.
There you go, like the Brady Bunch.
Jamie and Lou. Yeah, here's the story.
All right, let's get to question of the week. Jamie, this week's question is very good. Ron, usually what we'll get to question of the week, then we'll do the ARE moment. Ron, Jamie answers the question first, then we bring it to our guest and our listeners. So, Jamie, you kind of answered this question during a live show, but it's kind of reworded.
I know, I always play with my hair.
Yeah. This did come from an email. I don't remember who emailed this question in.
Okay.
But the question is, what pop culture event had the most significant impact on you?
Oh, I already answered this one.
Yeah, I think it was death that you answered, which would have been the horse from Neverending Story. But this is event. So what event?
Oh, that's not what I was thinking at all.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. So what?
Why do I have to go first?
Is this a question for all three of us?
Yeah.
Yeah, we each have to answer it.
And then our audience can chime in. What pop culture event had the most significant impact on you?
Well, you want me to answer first, or
yeah,
go ahead, Ron.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there's been a few. I think out in Spain, the Aviles convention was amazing. But as far as just impact, I remember. Well, I don't know if it's the same kind of impact he's looking for, but it was my first year in the business. I was sitting at the San Diego Comic Convention, which has always been and always will be a complete nut house. I mean, the amount of people stuffed into that center and everything is it's insane. But I was sitting there and I had never been to a comic convention before. I was wet behind the ears with these things, and so I was just like, what the hell? What is this place? What is going on here? But I see these boots. I'm like drawing and I see these boots come up to my table. It was green legs with yellow boots and a little boy right there. And I hear, "Hi, Mr. Garney. I literally wanted to meet you, blah, blah, blah." I look up and it's this 7-foot tall guy dressed as Jean Grey from the X-Men. So I'm just like, and he's with his son. I'm like, what? So I was like, oh, this is the business I've chosen to become a part of. Okay. It definitely had an impact on me.
Okay.
See,
Jamie?
I'm glad that Ron understood the question the same way that I did, and I think you're interpreting it wrong.
Maybe.
Because you went to the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like actual event. So mine was actually because you brought up the horse when Artax sunk in the mud.
No, I said to death, but we already had that question. Just answer the question.
Whatever. Mine was actually Granite Con because that was
New Hampshire.
Remember? Yeah. So cosplaying was always a bucket list thing for me. Like I'd been to conventions, but I never dressed up, and it was the first time I dressed up, and it was supposed to be a one-time only thing. And I was in this terrible Wonder Woman Halloween costume.
That's
whatever. I was having a good time, and this little girl, I will never forget. Like she was way on the other side of the room, and we just like locked eyes, and her face was painted like a butterfly, and she was like, "Wonder Woman!" And she ditched her mom, ran all the way across, and just like leapt into my arms, and that was just a moment for me. And then now here I am. Like if it wasn't for that moment, I wouldn't even be here doing this.
Imagine if it was Wonder Woman and somebody came running at you and jumped in your arms, but it was a 30-year-old guy.
That was me.
That's what happened. Yeah,
that's how we met.
Yeah.
That's how we met.
That's pretty much all I know is he was at every single. So after that moment, I was like, man, I got to keep doing this. Man, my costume sucks. So then I went on this, journey of building costume after costume upgrade until I finally found a guy that makes them for me now. But Lewis was at every convention I went to, and I had started entering cosplay contests, and every single one I see this guy with white hair and wristbands yelling for me. Every time I was on stage, I'm like, okay, is this guy following me? Like, what is going on?
Lewis, you Casanova, you.
The Angrygeeks brand. I mean, we're not hard. We're there everywhere. We're on stage. We're everywhere. And she goes, the guy with the camera again. The guy.
Yeah, and that's what they had. This huge camera. It was like the biggest camera I'd ever seen. So it was him and this other guy at the time. And I always knew the tall, skinny guy had the camera and he had the microphone. And it took me a while to figure out what they were doing, but yeah.
And look at that. Look at where you are now.
I know.
This beautiful.
Actually,
event.
See, now you were gonna have me change. I was gonna say what impacted me. I've been doing this.
Seeing her at the event.
Yeah.
Right.
We wouldn't be here now, but it's had the most impact on it.
Jamie had this past November. I was super nervous about one thing, and you had to actually calm me down. It was Carl Weathers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I was like super.
Carl Weathers was there.
Yeah, we
really
we were.
That's cool. What year was that?
He was
Just this past.
Rhode Island Comic Con.
Yeah.
We did once again. The cast of The Mandalorian had requested Jamie and I
Nice.
to moderate their panel because we did it prior at
that's
Colorado, and Carl Weathers this time was on the panel, and I'm a huge Stallone fan. I'm a huge Rocky fan, and I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I was like kind of freaking out. He knighted me on stage, which was pretty cool.
Did you get his DNA?
Actually, yes, but it was after the convention. Jamie and I were talking.
That sounds a little creepy.
A little bit. Jamie and I were talking to, I forget who we were. We were outside on the convention floor, and all of a sudden, this person puts his hand on my shoulder and starts talking to me. I turn around, and it's Mr. Weathers, and it just blew me away.
How tall was he?
He's tall.
Because
he's very tall.
Shorter. So is he like 6 feet or?
He's probably around 6 foot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture of us together.
Yeah, because I think
after the show when you're getting his DNA.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he just came over
Not
and
that
started.
Picture. That one's just for private viewings.
Yeah, but now actually thinking about Colorado is getting back to Jamie. Something that touched my heart at Colorado, and it's because of Jamie, was the little girl who ran across the parking lot that almost got hit by the bus.
Oh God, yeah.
You almost got hit by a bus.
This little girl ran.
God, what a nightmare.
We were leaving to go back to our hotel.
It was one of the shuttle buses. She ran in front of it.
Oh God! Thank God.
It was scary.
That was literally the worst thing. Oh, my worst nightmare. Stuff like that.
Aviva comes in, and what is Aviva saying?
Oh, this was her moment. Our show in 2019, when her son went on stage with Brian O'Halloran, and well, we know how that went.
Oh my God! Yes, that was. I remember that quite well.
Yes.
Burn the tapes. Burn the tapes is what we were told. Andre comes.
Andre.
Andre says the font
It does not have a bathroom.
Yeah, that would be pretty weird going to the bathroom in an invisible jet. Yeah, that'd be. It's the one thing that wouldn't be invisible.
And that's not the DNA anybody would want.
No,
God, that's oh my God. Anyway, with that being said,
some people might,
the ARE moment for tonight is this year at Rhode Island Comic Con. Jackie Earl Haley.
Oh, that guy. Oh, look at him.
Yes, from the Watchmen, Preacher.
Well, I remember him from
Breaking Away.
Breaking Away, yeah. I mean, I remember seeing that back in like 1980 or whatever it was.
Yep.
79.
Yep. And Bad News Bears, right? Yes.
Yep.
Yes, I believe he was in Bad News Bears. And
he's a remarkably gifted actor. Watching him play, Rorschach was. I couldn't imagine anybody else having played that better.
Mm-hmm. And at Colorado Springs Comic Con, the one and only John Barrowman from Arrow, Doctor Who, and Torchwood.
Barrowman. You said that funny.
He was a great Merlin. Not exactly the Merlin from the comic books, but he's a great Merlin. We have another comment coming in. And Andre says...
You can't
take me anywhere?
Yeah. Oh, so, Andre.
Oh, Andre. Ron, quick question. Your pages, you had pages for sale at the store when we were together with your appearance. Do you do commissions? Are you open for commissions, or are your deadlines just too much?
I do commissions, but I have to do them when I can. I can't. Okay. I get asked all the time, and I have to turn them down until later. I'll just tell people, get back to me in 6 months, see where I'm at, because I just have too much going on. I mean. My schedule is tight enough as it is, and then I don't need the stress of worrying about. As a matter of fact, I've got 2 here that I've been working on. Spider-Man thing.
Beautiful. Okay.
That I've been working on because but it's months overdue, because I just don't have the time I haven't had the time to finish it. So
all right, and
I try not to tell people yes, because I don't want them to be waiting and waiting, send me money and wait. I do it when I'm ready,
All right, that was a Twitter comment that we can't post. And another Twitter comment is, prints. Are your prints for sale on a website, or can they reach you through social media?
You may reach me through social media. I don't have them for sale on a website. I probably should, but I use them for conventions and things like that. And, I give them out, to my kids and friends and things like that. But, yeah, you can reach me on social media. Instagram's probably the best place to reach me, because that's where that's been fun, because it's like, it's the equivalent of being a musician on stage. You get to put your music, your art on stage, and it's like playing a song for people, because you get the instant feedback from an audience, which is something we never had before in this business. It was like, you do the work, you send it into an editor, and sometimes you wouldn't even hear back from it for 2 days, and you're like, you spend all that time on it. But this way you get, you put something up and you get instant feedback. Most of it's 99.9% positive, so it's like playing out for people, playing a guitar for someone or something, so
okay.
I enjoy it.
And Aviva, will you be at
Aviva,
RICC?
yeah.
That's Rhode Island Comic Con.
Somebody mentioned that to me at the store. I don't know who did.
I believe it was either me or Eric. Eric or I, excuse me. I have to.
Yeah, somebody mentioned it. I'd be happy to do it. It's, anything local, I'm totally down for doing. Probably the next one I'll do is, the casino, terrific con.
Yeah. We have another Twitter comment. Martial arts.
Yes.
Yes. Can you talk to us about your martial arts background?
Yeah, I'm a first-degree black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu or jiu-jitsu. Got my black belt from a world champ named Rafael Formiga Barbosa. At my age, I have actually a torn meniscus right now, which it's the third time I've had it. It's getting harder for me to wrestle with these freaking, muscle cars. I'm like a rusty truck at this point, but, yeah. So, I did, Aikido, karate, some boxing, throughout the years, but jiu-jitsu was the one that really, stuck with me. So, I still train. I had a little school for about 6 or 7 years, where I would teach, and we had students and everything, and but I closed that up. I had it with a partner, but we closed up back in 2015. So that's my background in it. I've always enjoyed it, and I wish I was younger. Okay. A little younger so I could still hang in there, but it's getting tough now. So
do you use that background when you're drawing a splash page of a fighting scene? Do you use that background to create?
I have. I mean, like when I was drawing Daredevil, there was one particular thing jumps out in my head is when he was fighting Karnak, because Karnak, he has this ability to pinpoint weaknesses in people. So him fighting Daredevil was interesting because Karnak didn't realize that Daredevil was blind, so Daredevil kind of had this advantage, and Karnak, not that he wasn't blind, but he had a radar sense and all that. Mm-hmm. So Daredevil was able to defeat Karnak, which was something that he shouldn't have been, most heroes wouldn't be able to do, because Karnak could find your weakness. So in that particular sequence of fighting, I was using joint locks and judo, wrist lock, I think, and a hip toss. So yeah, I use it. It's good to know. It makes it believable. I think you should make it believable. If I wasn't a kick-ass comic artist, what would I want to be doing? There's so many things. I would like to be an astronaut.
Why? Elaborate on that.
I wanted to be when I was young. But, I mean, geez, we all wanted to be a bunch of different things growing up, right? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to say something smart ass, but I stopped myself.
Oh, please, go ahead.
No.
I don't want to be the only one that she yells at.
I was going to say porn star, but I thought better of it.
I don't want to be the only one that gets yelled at. So, Ron,
I thought the little thing in my head said, "Be classy, Ron. Keep it classy." So my way out was to say I thought of it and then say it without having actually said it in the context of saying it. So that way I'm still classy.
There you go. And
yeah, right.
Mark says
we do have a lot in common.
Bullshit.
Ron, where can people find you? Where can people
Mark.
find you on the internet?
Like I said, Instagram, Facebook, don't be alarmed if I don't get back to you right away. I've had messages on Facebook, for instance, because I probably have like 2,000 friend requests on there that I can't get to because Facebook has a limit. Mm-hmm. So, and then I'll find like from 2 years ago, they have like hidden message folders or something. And you go in there and somebody wrote to me like 2 years ago. I'm like, oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm not ignoring you. I don't pay attention so much to those things. And I honestly, with Instagram, I put my art on there, and Facebook, there's some stuff, and but I honestly try to stay away from the toxic aspects of social media. Twitter, for instance, I'm on Twitter. There are a lot of followers on there, but I never go on because every time I go on, I just can't believe the sheer idiocy of the things I read. It's just insane. So
so you do follow us.
You guys don't seem angry. I don't know if you're living up to your.
I was.
Let me see you guys be angry. Give me a good angry geek.
No, because she yells at me too much. No.
Well, that's angry. No. She's yelling at you.
Yeah, no,
There's a difference between rude and angry, Lewis.
No, she. See.
She thinks angry means be rude.
She said that there's a difference between being rude and angry, Lewis.
You see, Ron. This is what it is. I have to.
The way she said your full name, Lewis.
I know. It's like it's like this. She's like my kid sister. So when we are out on the road,
is that what you thought of her when you first started seeing her at the conventions, like you were saying?
Yeah, actually,
my kid sister?
Actually, it was. I came. My wife was like.
Believe it or not, though, he's not much older than me.
Yeah. How old are you guys? Why did you say believe it or not?
Because everybody thinks he's way older.
Don't let the gray hair fool you. I actually got the worst. She yelled at me, and my wife yelled at me. Jamie and we had an appearance in my area because she actually lives 2 hours away from me. So
where do you guys live? How old are you?
I live in Loudon, which is
Pennsylvania,
north of Concord, New Hampshire.
Oh, New Hampshire, okay.
Yeah, and I live in Ware, Mass.
Okay.
Ware, Massachusetts. So I forgot where we were going. We had an appearance down at this end of New England.
Right.
And Jamie came over, and she was driving this big white truck that you would never imagine.
My old work truck.
Yeah, she gets out.
I hated that thing.
When she jumped down and her head went down like this, and I start laughing. I was like, "Ha! You need to dye your hair. You're gonna look like me." That was it. She was mad at me the entire day. My wife why did you say that to her? Why did you? I just made a joke, so I can't make jokes.
I grew them out. Can't even tell.
Is that your natural hair color?
Yeah. It's actually very salt and pepper, but you can't tell on camera.
I was this way since I was 18. So I just
you're gray. It looks kind of blondish in a way.
It's like clear. It's
clear. Yeah, it's like fiber. It has fiber optics.
It
is. Yeah. No, I was this color since I was 18.
Take some of your hair out and put it in one of those Enterprise models or something and light it up.
I got 2 Enterprise models to actually build downstairs.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Cool, those phasers. I have a couple phasers.
Anyway, thank you, Ron, for being here with us tonight.
You never told me how old you were.
I will off camera.
Ah! What a
Jamie,
gift.
tell everyone. Jamie,
What
tell
a
everyone
gift.
where they can find us each and every week, please.
You can find us.
Oh, Morbius was horrible. I hated it. I hate it. Morbius was
at the
horrible.
Angry Geeks or on the website at www.theangrygeekshow.com.
That's it. Well, thank you guys for stopping in and hanging out with us tonight. We'll see you guys next week.
Now. He doesn't want everybody to know how old he is.
Bye.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation. Found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.